Hey everyone, this is Aaron and Juwan, and you're listening to Wellness for Real People. This show is for people who are on the go, busy, and looking for ways to live their best lives. We focus on wellness topics in mindfulness, exercise, diet, and sleep, and share quick, actionable tactics to improve your health and wellness. We're not perfect, but we're trying to get a little better each day. Let's grow on this journey together.
Do you ever have trouble concentrating? Well, if you're like me, you're not alone. And today we're going to talk about it. We're reviewing an article from Harvard Health. It's called Pay Attention to Concentration. So I want to welcome you back to another episode of Wellness for Real People. My name's Jawan here with my co-host Aaron. And we're excited to get into a topic that is near and dear to my heart today, something I've been really struggling with as of late, concentration. I feel like my mind's just been a little bit all over the place. I've just been really, really busy with life and work and so many different things, and I've just been finding it really difficult to kind of focus. I'll get into something and something will pull me away, or I'll forget about something I was supposed to do, and then I'll wake up in the middle of the night. Oh my gosh, I forget about this such and such a thing. So we're gonna talk about maybe some of the reasons why that happens, and more importantly, what we can do about it moving forward. So I really liked this article, short and sweet, by Matthew Solon, and he says that that's it's normal. Like over time, we do tend to become a little bit more forgetful. My mom has a phrase called it "senior brain," right? But um, you know. Decreased concentration, he says, is often a normal part of the aging process, and your brain's ability to function efficiently can sometimes gradually decline. So what can we actually do about that? He has some really great and simple tips that we're going to talk about today. So if you struggle with concentration, a few things to consider. Number one, first and foremost, avoid multitasking. Right. And I know in this world, this fast-paced world that we live in with, so many devices and instant access and instant message and email and text and, Instagram and all the social media platforms and the phone calls and the tablets and the TVs, we're just like super overstimulated. And so I really like this idea of taking it back to just being simple and focus on one task at a time, right? Concentration can suffer when we try to take on too much at once. And there's always that old, proverb that says, if you chase two rabbits, you'll catch none. And so, when faced with multiple to-do items, just start with one or two, right? And then, really focus on those until you get them done, and then leave the others, until later. And I think that's just simple advice. I've heard it a million times, but just a good reminder.
Yeah, and I'm going to make it relevant too, just for folks in this day and age. A lot of us are working on screens. A lot of us are working on computers and desktops. And I don't know about you, but if you can not count the number of browser tabs that you have open, it's a problem. Once you're able to go from seeing the icon with the title to just like 100 icons, you've gone too far. And this is where the multitasking comes down because you intend to get to all those things and you might be cycling between a couple that are very important, but then once you get to like 20, 30, 40 tabs that are all open at the same time, it's a problem. And you can't focus on anything. And then if you've ever tried to present in that scenario or try to get work done with other people in that scenario, you're like tabbing and like, oh, I've got so many tabs, I don't know what's going on. You've gone too far. And that's when multitasking has gone too far. So one of the most simple tricks is when you really have to focus on something, you don't want to close all your tabs. Grab that whole screen and move it to the side and start a brand new window with one thing to focus on and just focus on that because it's so easy to tab between all those and you get off track and you're looking at something else and you're multitasking on this or that. Um, and it's hard to do. And the other one is like notifications on your watch, your watch, your phone, all of that. When you're ready to really focus and lock in, set aside some time, block it on your calendar, and then really just say, okay, I'm not going to look at all these other things. I'm only going to do one or two things during this time frame and silence all the notifications because you will get sidetracked, guaranteed. But yeah, that's it for me.
No, I think those are great, two great points. And I don't know if you are doing some kind of magic and looking at my screen right now because I got about 27 tabs open as we
I know,
speak.
I know. We intend to do it all. Like we have good intentions. We're trying to do the right thing, but yeah, it
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
it goes too far.
I got some work to do. I really love that advice around just really, especially simplifying
You don't have to close
all the
them,
tabs.
just move them for a little bit,
Yeah,
shrink them, and start new, and just do a
yeah.
couple things. Yeah,
Cool. So the second one we have here is take scheduled mental breaks.
yeah,
All right. Research has found that your attention can begin to wane as soon as 10 minutes after beginning a task. And so this idea of like burning the midnight oil and just like, staying with it for, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, you're not being as productive and effective as you could possibly be if you took a little bit of time and took a break. And so I love that tip. And the author talked about one approach called the Pomodoro technique, where you set a 25-minute timer where you
okay,
work straight through for 25 minutes and then you do a 5-minute break and just kind of repeat that cycle as a way to, kind of keep your mind fresh and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And I think that's a really good tool or technique to keep in mind for sure as we get in, like you said, into this age of where we're doing tend to do a lot more work, just kind of sitting down in front of a screen, and it's very easy to just get kind of sucked into it. But are you really being productive as you could be? And even if you are, is that good for your health to just be sitting and looking at a screen for that, hours and hours on end, right? I think we've talked about that in previous episodes, right? The importance of movement and being active throughout the day is really, 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 really important. And so I love that second tip there around just making sure that we schedule those breaks. Um,
yeah. And then the next one is something I'm very notorious for, is distractions. And so the third tip is to remove distractions. So when you're working on a task, switch off the TV, set up message blockers, and silence your smartphone. The biggest one for me is I'm notorious for having something up, whether it's like a podcast or a sports show or something on another screen going on at the same time while I'm working on something. Like you can't always do that on like a business call, but when you're just trying to do like productive work, I usually have something else going on and it is distracting. And sometimes people have the sense that background noise can help with distraction, but sometimes the words, and I don't know if you've noticed it, but the words and things that you're hearing can kind of incorporate and play into whatever you're working on. And so if it's something negative, sometimes that can translate over or just get you way off track. And then all of a sudden you're looking over here and seeing, oh, what is that? What's going on? And then you come back and you forgot what you were doing and you got to start over. So removing those distractions will really help. If you're somebody that needs noise to concentrate because you don't want to just be in a silent void, sometimes things like white noise, bird songs, soothing sounds, as the article recommends, can help with that. But things with like words and all these other kind of things that we typically listen to can really pull you off track.
yeah, yeah, no, that's a great point. Like, um, you have to be in the right mode to listen to music while I'm working because, like you said, I'm very easily distracted, and so I love that tip around just like, sometimes I'll put on some classical music, that something
Right.
like you said with no words to
Yeah.
just allow me to, like you said, have something in the background that's soft, but not too distracting or yeah, different types of sound I don't know exactly what you call it, the playlist, but there are
Yeah,
different
they got all kinds of like
frequencies to like,
lo-fis and
yeah.
soft noise and all
Mm-hmm.
these things that have no words basically to try
Mm-hmm.
to like keep you in a rhythm and keep
Yeah.
you moving, but not focused on what someone's saying and
Mm-hmm.
put you off track. Because it's as much as you think it is, if like you try to like really listen to some music that has a lot of really provocative lyrics, you're gonna eventually kind of lean into that after a
Yeah.
while. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the author, kind of closes the article talking about, training the brain, right? Just like we train our muscles physically, but also training the brain mentally. There's some tools and techniques. Of course, we'll link to the full article in the show notes. But I one of the things that he brought up that I thought was really interesting was this idea of like just continuing to challenge your brain in a way that's constructive and positive, right? So things like taking lessons in classes, learning a new skill, right? Learning a new language, or learning, taking a painting class or cooking class, or learning a new instrument. All of these things can be helpful for your brain, and your cognitive abilities, right? Because they require, he says, these things require focus, but they're also set up for, to help show progress and offer encouragement. And so I thought that was a really, really nice way to kind of close things out, just around, like, it's been a while since I've taken just a fun skill-based kind of class.
Sure.
And I want to do a little bit more of that. I know we talked kind of off camera, a little bit about, this, my goal, one of my goals this year is to get outside and get a little bit more active, and finally get into, golf, something I've never gotten into before. But it's kind of same kind of idea, like a new skill, to just challenge the brain, and also make you feel good when you learn something new. So
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And the last thing they mentioned too is just not doing something that's super overwhelming or dissuade you too much. Because learning those skills is great. But if it's something that requires like an insane amount of effort or stresses you out, it's not worth it. So things like golf are nice because it's really nice and relaxing, or cooking, or any of these kind of things where they're like skills that you can work into are fantastic. But yeah, really good overall, or article about concentration, building those habits, and trying to find some ways to be a little bit more mindful about the actions that we take on a day-to-day basis.
yeah. So that's it for this episode. Really short and sweet, but I hope you got some helpful tips out of it. And we will be back with another episode of Wellness for Real People real soon. In the meantime, take care. See you later.